the global list. If you look at the global list, you see some of these companies, the North American list, you'll see some of the global players on the right side as well, and a variety of different companies. I think so there is no one way of doing it. If you compare P&G, for example, I think with a company like IBM or McKinsey, I think you'll find there are lots of differences across these companies. If you're looking for a best practices example, by the way, in your program, the MBA program, for a company that does a great job when it comes to innovation and developing good leaders, I think you should look at Procter & Gamble. P&G is a fantastic company. I know they also have struggled, I know, in the last 2 or 3 years because of the global recession, I think, but P&G does a great job. Jeffrey Immelt, I mentioned the CEO, the current CEO of of GE. He is a former employee of P&G. The former CEO of eBay is also from P&G. Scott, who is the CEO of Intuit, the makers of Quicken software. He also, Scott Cook, he's also from P&G. So P&G, for some reason that we don't completely understand, I think produces great leaders over and over again that end up becoming CEOs at other companies. I think so this would be a great kind of a best practice example, I think, to study, I think, and think more about in your own program. So moving on to the topic of innovation, there are 3 things I'm going to talk about. I'm going to leave some time at the end of my talk. I know it's a big group, so I'm not sure how easy it will be to take questions, but maybe somebody can move, I think, with some microphones, and we can have an opportunity, I think, to have a dialogue. So I do want to take some time, but these are the 3 things that I would like to focus on in my talk today. What is innovation? Which firms, what kind of firms are innovating more? And thirdly, and this is a last topic, but very complex, and the hardest to do, and that is, how do you build a culture of innovation? I think I talked about Apple. I think if it was easy to imitate Apple, a lot of companies would want to imitate Apple. But that's the problem. The hardest things are the most difficult to imitate. You just can't say, well, we're going to do what Apple does. Well, it works for Apple because it's Apple. You try and doing something that works for them in a different context, it's just not going to work. I think so. What I'm going to conclude my talk with today, I think, is going to be about some things that we have learned based on research, I think, about culture and how can leaders, I think, develop a culture of innovation in their organizations. I know many of you are taking the required marketing class, I think, this term. I think, have you talked about innovation yet? Well, some of you then might recognize this gentleman on the right side of the screen, Joseph Peter. He was a professor at University of Chicago, and his claim to fame is that he developed he coined this phrase called creative destruction. And the creative destruction, I love that phrase. I really like that phrase because it sort of makes the point very compellingly that in order to create something new, you got to destroy something. To create something new, you got to destroy something. And as a manager, I think that's a wonderful lesson, I think, to keep in mind, to inculcate. A lot of managers are basically stuck with inertia, I think, because they are reluctant to kill off existing products to make room for new ones. So products tend to outlive their lives much longer than they should be allowed to stay in the marketplace. So creative destruction, I think, kind of captures, I think, the important message so eloquently, I think, about the need to destroy something in order to create something new. Innovation, of course, comes in lots and lots of different flavors. In my talk today, I'm going to focus on the first type of innovation, I think, and that is the innovation dealing with new products or services. Things like the iPad and the iPhone and products like that, tangible products and services. But I should also remind you, of course, I think that innovation is not necessarily limited only to product and service innovation. That can also involve, for example, things like process innovation. I think Henry Ford, of course, developed the automobile. I think, but what he's remembered for is that in the late 1800s, early 1900s, he figured out the method of mass production. The mass production was a process innovation. And you don't even have to go all the way back. How many of you have heard of or done a case study? Anybody from Mumbai here? Can you tell me about the Dabbawalas? What do the Dabbawalas do? Anybody want to talk about the Dabbawalas in the back, please? Speak up so that anybody can hear you. I think we should really hear this from a Mumbai person. So this is a great process innovation. Please go ahead.
Actually, they deliver lunch for people working in offices. So that's what they're all about.
That's right. Thank you. 5,000 people serving how many office workers? About 2.5 lakhs every day. Many of the 5,000 people actually who work, I think in this group are semi-literate. And this is a fantastic process innovation. I think so innovation can take different forms. I think but my talk today is going to focus on the product innovation. You can also think about taking an existing product and taking it to a new market. That itself is also an innovation. New organizational forms. I think devising new ways to organize productive activities in a firm is also a type of innovation. General Motors, I know is in deep trouble as we speak in the United States. But General Motors, one of their CEOs in the early 1900s was Alfred Sloan. Alfred Sloan's contribution to humanity, so to speak, or business world, I think, is that he developed the divisional structure. The divisional structure that you guys are going to be talking about in your management classes, I'm sure, I think was an innovation. Dealing with new organizational forms. So I guess the point that I want to make here is that although my talk today is going to focus only on product and service innovation, I do not want you to think of innovation in this myopic form. I want you to think of innovation much more broadly, but in the interest of time, because I have only 1 hour or so to talk about this, I'm going to focus only on the innovation as it relates to products and services. So let's talk about product innovations. I briefly mentioned the iPad and the iPhone. These are the iPads that I hope my wife will give me for my birthday later this year. I've been told I should not hold my breath. Maybe, so we shall see what happens. I think my wife, by the way, does have a Kindle. I did actually give her a Kindle about a year ago. So now I think she'll return the favor, right? So she said, you can actually have the Kindle if you like. I said, no, I don't want the Kindle. The Kindle, by the way, those of you who have not, anybody has a Kindle? Anybody has a Kindle? Kindle has an international product. Kindle has an international service now that they introduced just about 6 months ago. It's a small handheld device that allows you to download books for fairly competitive prices. I think competitive prices compared to hard paperback or hardcover or paperback versions of those books. I think it's a great product. It's a great product, and it changes the publishing business significantly. iPad, I think, is going to also, I think, really going to change, I think, the whole model, I think, of how newspapers are read, how books are read. Professor Bharadwaj took me to your library, I think, before my talk today, and we were talking about the role of electronic resources. Like we have a wireless network on this campus. I think you can log on to EBSCO. I think for the project that you guys will be doing at the end of the year, you will be relying a lot on the electronic resources. And I said, the books are, I know we all want to see great libraries. I think, but that's sort of a mindset going back 40, 50 years. I think, with devices like these, I think, the library will be on your device. Okay, so you can read books on this, you can read newspapers, you can, and very, very competitive prices, in many cases free. I think, so it changes. And all this, of course, came from Apple, something that we talked about earlier. What about service innovations? Service innovations really excite me, I think, because they're harder to develop.